Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet, trans femme genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain.
And I'm Pacey, trans masc non-binary, mental health and recovery advocate.
And welcome to Transjoyboise podcast, where every story, laugh, and act of joy is a stand for our community.
We uplift bold voices, share real experiences, and celebrate trans lives thriving.
Tune in, connect, and spread the joy because trans joy is
unstoppable. I was ready this time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's always a journey.
That was great.
Yes.
Yeah, that
You
was
did
maybe
it.
our best one.
I think so. I made some weird noise with my throat at one point, but other than that, yeah.
I figured an A+. And I'm here in person, so I feel like my vote really matters.
You're
A+.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yes, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I didn't practice, like a beautiful
It's okay.
introduction.
We all
like
started
y'all.
somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, that's so true.
Right.
And we're all on a different journey. My name is Van. I am the vice president of Canyon County Pride, which was started last year. I don't know what else to say about me. I guess my pronouns are she, her, they, them, mostly.
Okay.
However, I did, I identify as genderqueer. I did get, as I was putting up Canyon County Pride posters at Boise Co-op yesterday, someone was screaming like, sir, like screaming. And I was like, wow, someone is like running with some milk and like trying to steal from the co-op is what I'm thinking in my head as I'm like putting the poster on the bulletin board. And I keep hearing like, sir. And apparently they were talking to me because then it changed to ma'am. But then also I hate being called ma'am as well.
Yeah, of course.
Like ma'am is a no, and so is lady for me. Like ma'am and lady, no thank you. Then it changed to ma'am, and I was like, wow, there are lots of people stealing today just as I'm like hanging these things up. And then I turn around and there's two like employees like right in my face. They're like, you have to get permission to put that up.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, I did not know you were talking to me. I was not trying to ignore you.
Right.
I'm so sorry. Here's the poster. And they're like, oh, you don't need permission for that. Like, we love the gays. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But it was a funny interaction of like, oh, they were talking about me. They don't know if I'm a man or woman. I don't either. It's okay. And I guess that's the introduction for myself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's
that's
so
great.
relatable.
Yeah, relatable for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you've shared similar stories too.
Yeah. But it's like it's same. It's like we're all uncomfortable and I don't like any of the pronouns. Just like don't perceive me at all and we'll be great.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wonder, especially with
for
like
strangers.
ma'am and sir from strangers, like why are we still doing that in this day and age? I wonder.
I used to hate sir, but I really don't like ma'am. And I have one person who I won't say who does call me lady. And the first time I heard it, I was like, all right, I think I like that. But I think I would only like it from him.
From that person.
From that
Yeah.
person,
And-
yeah.
Because it's different from him.
Well, it is.
I know exactly who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
no, totally. And I was
he's
just
lovely.
like, it was just like, oh, it's so great to meet you, lady, or something. It was something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's kind of it was very affirming, but I was like, oh, all right.
And I think that's an interesting thing to hit on because, like, I think oftentimes we like wear our pronoun pins or wear our preferred situation, or like with my partner, she'll use different titles and pronouns with me, and it's okay. But that doesn't mean it's okay with everyone.
Yep.
And like my kids still call me mom. We've talked about like Mappa as like a in between.
Right.
That's cute.
But it's interesting. It is cute. Have you seen the show Transparent? What do you think of it as a trans person?
I mean, I saw it a while back before I
Okay.
transitioned. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to watch back now.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of cool. I know there was challenges with it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a cool, because there wasn't many trans stories at that time, especially as like parents. And so it was definitely some story. And I feel like that's oftentimes with trans and non-binary and queer folks is that we just have to settle with what representation sometimes happens for us. Yeah. And it's like, yay and ew. It's like this mixed bag, but it seemed good to me.
An interesting thing that I would suggest is the book written by the writer of Transparent. Is this too big of a leap
no,
away
not
from
at
what
all.
we're supposed
No,
I don't know what we're supposed to be
how
talking about, but I'm chit-chatting about whatever I want.
Yeah.
But their book is incredible because they wrote Transparent in response to their parent transitioning, and that's kind of how they processed going through the transition as their child.
Yeah.
And that's why the show is written. But then they went on their own gender journey, and I believe they identify as non-binary now. I'm not actually completely 100% sure because I read it a long time ago. But the book that I bought has their I don't know if it's their dead name or
some signature,
a very female-oriented thing, and now I think it's printed as a non-binary. So it's cool to hear her experience as a non-binary person and having a transparent through that. The book is awesome.
I think the fact that it's that's somebody's trans experience, right? And so I think that's so that's really great. So I think the story in of itself is probably amazing. I think the challenge was it was a cisgender man,
and he ended up sexually assaulting many members of it was a whole thing. Jeffrey Tamper.
So not a trans person.
Definitely not a trans person. We'd like to make that clear. White straight guy.
It's always the white.
What do you know?
Predatory.
It's crazy that he's a predator. Wild news.
It is wild how that.
Out,
It's good though that we have more examples of trans experience in media other than back in our all of our day basically was the L Word and Queer as Folk.
Queer as Folk was
Queer as Folk.
It was the jam. It's so
you watched it?
When I was growing up, I actually used to run queer groups for queer men, and we would watch it and then tear it apart and talk about this and that. And I'm like, he's a child. That's a man. You know what I mean? There was so much and it was extremely white, but it was just it's very problematic when you think about it now. But even back in the day, just the cultural norms and understandings of because many of us queer people have had experiences with older people, and it almost felt like more of a coming of age. It's just how you. I don't know how, and I know it's kind of wonky to talk about this publicly, but I feel like a lot of us just because we didn't have queer people around us, I think we often ended up meeting people older than us first, and that's kind of the beginning of our queer experience. And so to see that now, it just feels icky. At the time when you're that age, you just think it's cool, and you don't really think about the dynamic. But now to look back and think of a 17-year-old and a 30-year-old, it's not cute. No. By any stretch of the
that's definitely not. But even
but you just don't think
stuff,
about that
that's more accepted, I think, in the queer communities, aside from it being Justin being a minor. But the show, there were several things in the show that age very, very poorly. But at the time, it was revolutionary. There was nothing like it before that. Just to be able to watch queer lives on, it was just unlike anything I had ever seen at the time. I never even watched the final season because I didn't.
It had come up
in the ending
in the UK first, but did you see the most recent version? It was so good. Yeah. No, it was so good.
It good? Okay.
And a dear friend of mine was one of the main characters.
That's right.
They were the drag queen,
cool.
and it was a lot better. It was almost completely done by Black and brown folks, and there was it was definitely the queer folk of our time. There was
interesting
lesbian couples that were having babies or trans people that were having babies, and it was just this. It was they did really kind of take it to I think the next level, and then now to where it had a little bit more of a I thought it was just so much better to see.
My toxic trait is I was in love with Brian Kinney. I thought that he was just perfect, and now saying that. I haven't seen this in 15 years. I'm sure I'll watch it and just be horrified. I was very ill back then, right? But I was he's just great.
It came up the other day as a thing to check out, and so me and my partner, we turned it on for a second. I was just
I'm sure.
God. Yeah.
Interesting.
A really great show to watch is Sort of. Have you seen Sort of?
No.
It's on HBO Max, and it's based in Toronto, and it's this like Indian refugee. Well, their family came from India, and so they live in Toronto, and then they're like non-binary, and they're like a nanny, and so it talks about all the like kind of there's like the cultural aspects, there's the Islamic aspects, and then there's also just like being non-binary and her eventually transitioning, but like kind of that journey. And it's just really lighthearted. It's a lot of fun. There's lots of like queer people, and it's just a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's very good. Yeah. Anywho.
That's
a nice way to get started,
though. That was absolutely
though.
my fault. I will take full responsibility for us talking about
That's how we get to know each other a little bit more. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well, we really don't know each other. I mean,
I've wore your socks.
You have worn my socks, and that was very intimate.
It was.
For wearing them.
You were a lifesaver. I mean, had we met? We just barely met before that too. We'd met at the river, the lake, the river, the water.
Was that
when we first met? Yeah. Before the march. It was just before the march.
Okay,
yeah.
I believe you.
And we were like out of the water out there.
Chit-chatting.
Yeah, I think that's when we first met.
So we met once.
Yes, and then there was the trans march, and I forgot to wear socks, and I was in those big old boots.
Oh, they were gorgeous boots. But
my feet were dying, and you were like, "Here, take my socks," and you literally took them off your body, and I was like, "No, wait, you need them," and I was also like in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Well, I was always taught in church like you're supposed to give someone the shirt off your back, and I figure it kind
rainbow
of
socks
to the socks as
one
well.
and the same.
Yeah,
no,
like
totally.
I think that's maybe something I decided to keep from church is like being kind to people. I don't know.
Yeah. It's so beautiful of like leaving the church, right, and then still using the teachings, but in a way of giving rainbow socks to someone at a trans march.
Totally.
Like, fuck yeah, I love that. Yeah.
It takes you back to Sunday school.
Well, and I feel like, I mean, I was a lesbian wearing Nike Air Max, so like my feet are going to be fine with or without socks.
Yeah. Well, and we ended up getting in a car, didn't we? And like we rode to the next place, but it was still kind of like.
It was still too much for your feet. Yeah. Because you still had to stand when you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you looked great.
You were a lifesaver.
Well, you were.
And that was kind of the
so good
beginning of us knowing each other, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about Preston? When did you meet Preston?
I think that was the same. I think we
at
met
the march.
At the march. Yeah, because we went and got food after.
Food. That's right.
At Perea.
So it's been a very short amount of time, really.
Yeah. Pacey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I don't even know.
I'm probably the worst. I'm like, all right, they're Pacey on camera, and then I'm the one.
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
So tell us about Canyon County Pride.
Wow, I could talk about this all day. So you'll have to like maybe guide me because this really is one of my many passions.
Okay, well, how about tell us about how it started and how successful it was last year?
Okay, so you want me to brag at the success? Fabulous, I can do that.
I do, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting. So I have a trans son. When we first left the church, we moved to Nampa, and so basically knew no one because we were so used to like moving somewhere and having a church community.
Right.
And that's kind of what you lean on as church folks.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same in other religions, but that's like what we would do. We would move somewhere, find our church people, make
and
roots.
Especially I think in the Mormon religion, because it seemed like it's at every level. It's at work, it's at school, it's like who you hang out with. It's like I've always noticed I was non-Mormon, so I wasn't cool in my little hometown. The cool kids were Mormon.
Okay.
The cool bad kids were Catholic. And then I was just not.
You were just you.
I smoked by in the Catholic church, like. But yeah, like so that was one thing I noticed with Mormons as well, and I always thought it was great. Like Mormons tend to be like really close family oriented, and that seems like a really awesome value, like looking at. But I think as soon as you become not a part of that, it's like you lose everything. It's not just like your family, but it's like it's your work, it's your community. It's like it's so huge.
Yeah, and anytime I kind of missed that sense of community, I would try to make my own within the queer community, because I think that's like a huge asset that we have as a queer community is like creating groups and contacts and like having a really strong family, probably because a lot of us lose our families as we come out or transition or fill in the blank.
And even in just a more authentic way, I know like I began to love my queerness because I was able to leave church and like be around other queer people who felt good about who they were and they understood who they were a little bit better when I was just trying to figure it out. But so in a lot of ways I feel like the queer community, just because I've come from a spiritual lane, like that was my new sanctuary, was the dance clubs and the queer folks, and did include drugs and alcohol eventually, but that's just par for the course for most young people growing up in a lot of ways in your 18, 19, 20s.
But I was Mormon, so I couldn't even drink coffee.
Right. I didn't mean to derail you.
Oh, you didn't derail me at all. My trans kid was, I think at the time, came out as non-binary, and we kind of explored that. And I, being a queer person, was like, I can do this. I can parent the non-binary trans person because like I love the queer community. I'm a bisexual person. I got this. And then saw his mental health plummet, as he was figuring things out. And as he was trying new names, new pronouns, that sort of thing, even though he had a safe place to do it, I think because, it's a little different if just his parents and sibling are supporting him versus people his age, people that he looks up to that are, going to his school. So I called all my therapist friends. I emailed people in the queer community and was like, I have a son, at the time he was 11 or 12. I need help. Like I'm literally waking up every morning, going to his room to make sure he's alive. This is not working. He was in therapy too. But without a community, therapy again is just like one key to health. Right. And someone told me about Clutch and we went the next week. I emailed Mindy and Louise beforehand, said my kid was coming, and he walked in and it was like, I think the feeling that a lot of people get at church, I imagine, I never really felt it.
Like you belonged.
But like they belong. Yeah. And we felt that at Clutch the minute we walked in the door. Yeah. And it was such a cool experience. And it kind of gives me a soft place for church people. If I kind of think of that feeling, I'm like, okay, this is maybe why people still go to church, because this feeling of belonging and family and accepting who you are, regardless of any stipulation, is an amazing feeling. And I instantly was like, I'm volunteering. I am being involved in this because of the instant turnaround in my kid. Like just having a group of adolescent queerdos meeting together. A lot of them are like ADHD and autistic, just like my kid. And so, like there was no pressure to like have giant conversations or engage. It was just come as you are. Here's food. Here's an activity. Have fun. Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about Clutch? I don't know that everyone knows what Clutch is.
Clutch, I, being raised Mormon, was taught to like baptize people and give testimony all the time. And I feel like that prepared me to talk about Clutch because I have converted people on the regular to Clutch. But Clutch is for ages 12 to, I want to say 14. I want to say 14 to 21, but it could be 12 to 21. I'm a horrible volunteer that I don't know that. But it's for queer youth in Nampa. I know a lot of people that drive from Boise. I know a lot of people that drive, from wherever, whenever they can. But it's an awesome organization led by a lesbian couple that is, I do not know how to describe them other than perfect love. Mindy and Louise are an incredible example of how to love, an incredible example of how to exist in community when people are pushing back against you, and an incredible example of how to be a queer adult interacting with queer youth. They're just incredible.
So it's like an LGBTQ youth group? So it's not like trans specific, it's
not trans specific. However, most of the youth that regularly attend are trans or non-binary.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard about it, it was like a trans thing. Like that's kind of like what I had heard. But once I looked it up and learned a little bit about it, it was obviously more of like an LGBTQ thing.
Yeah, and I don't think they like stop you at the door.
Oh,
and
no.
Like, are you actually a bisexual, or are you coming?
All,
you know, like they aren't going to like quiz you. But yeah, it's definitely queer centered. So I started volunteering. I met Tom, and Tom and I are like really, really similar energy wise. And like, yes, we will sit front row at this kid's tarot reading thing and learn about tarot. Like, there's only 4 other kids, and then me and Tom, and we were like, yes, we love the activities. So he and I really bonded over like participating, because a lot of the adults are more like, oh, I'm making the food, I'm, you know, like helping with various tasks, and we were very much like front row in the activity with the kids, like talking with the kids while we do the activity. So we kind of bonded over that. And one day, I think it was after yoga, he casually was like, it's my dream to have Canyon County Pride someday. Like, wouldn't that be awesome for these kids? Like, to be able to know that in Canyon County, people want to show up for them. Other than this one Thursday a week. And I was like, absolutely, that would be incredible. And he was like, do you think we could do it this year? And it was April.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yes. I mean, like, what's the harm in applying? You know, like, throw in an application. He's like, yeah, let's do it at Indian Creek. I was like, okay, throw in an application. Don't you dare tell me this dream if you're not committed to it, because I will make this happen. Like, and he's like, oh, no, you don't know me well enough, but we're making this happen if we're like, are we doing this? And I was like, yes. Are we doing this? And he was like, yes. So he handed an application. Indian Creek said no, they were too busy. I don't know if that's true. And then we applied for Lakeview Park. And then I believe it was May 7th, I want to say. They notified us that we were approved. And on the application, we said like 50 to 100 people in front of the Rose Garden. And we're just going to have a little picnic, you know? And we kind of figured like worst case scenario, we would text all the queerdos that we know, text like hookups that we'd had or something, and be like, come to the park. We're throwing Pride, because we don't get Pride in June in Boise. And it's like an important part of being queer is like celebrating in June. So, you know, wouldn't you come to a picnic in the park?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pacey, wouldn't you like just come bring your own lunch? We thought it would be like a potluck situation with like 50 people. And then it slowly got more and more interest as we like put the word out there. But I think he and I were probably working 20 hours a day from the day we heard about it until day after, probably, because of the timeline. You know, when you have 21 days to plan a festival, it gets really, really chaotic, really, really fast. So it sort of progressed. We had these ideas. We met with sponsors. We were basically doing as much as we could. And then the mayor came out with her completely bigoted, homophobic press release. And
of course.
Of course, which is so sad that like that's the of course, but you're right, of course. And basically said like, well, we would not let you do this, but unfortunately the First Amendment exists, so
we can't do it.
Our lawyers say we have to let you be here. So we,
which was a gift in a lot of ways.
It was a huge gift, because national news picked it up. We had a story in the Washington Post, and from then it was just like more fuel for this incredible. Like we were planning on a little fire, a little family fire to roast marshmallows over, and it turned into a beautiful, warm, heavenly celebration for almost 4,000 people. So it was crazy, and I think. We continually had to keep making adjustments. Like, we originally ordered 100 shirts and then like kept ordering more and more and more. Originally didn't have any, fencing, security guards or anything. And then we started getting death threats, and we're like, okay, how do we protect our community? And then we got fencing, and then had to keep moving that back and making a bigger and bigger footprint, which
right.
You were both there.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, it was completely packed. Like people were sitting on laps type of a thing. So
it was a packed
it
house.
is good to know that we have about 3 times the amount of space this year. So it will probably be another packed house, but at least you won't have to like, you know, starting then.
And I just want to make it clear for everyone listening who isn't local. Canyon County is not it's not a friendly place for the queer community. So like that's why this is such a huge deal. It's because this place, like I remember first hearing about it, I was like, there's no way that's gonna happen. And I don't go to Canyon County unless I have to because
you're not safe.
I'm not safe there. No, absolutely not. So the fact that you guys were able to put together this festival in such short notice and have it be so wildly successful and get like national news is just unbelievable. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think if people knew like what Canyon County was like, they would truly understand like the obstacles that you had to get through to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pacey. The obstacles felt really scary and really big at times, but anytime any sort of obstacle would come up, like, you know, at first we were saying bring your own food and water type thing. And then I was like, I don't want someone to get heat stroke. We now have like thousands of people showing up. Like I'm worried about water and I would like stress out over it.
I'm sure.
You know, like at 7 p.m. I would be like, I have to stop working. I have to be with my family. And like, what am I going to do about water? Like people are going to get dehydrated and pass out. I don't want that. Yeah. The next morning I would wake up to an email saying, hey, my name's Erin. Shout out, Erin. My name's Erin. I was wondering if I could provide water to the whole festival for you. Like it would be
just all fell into place.
It would be wild things like that are like obscure, tiny things that I would need to get done and have no idea how to do it or where to even start, like down the path of figuring it out. And then I wouldn't I don't have the time to like go down the whole path of figuring it out. And someone would just email me or text me or, you know, fill in the blank being like, do you happen to need 5,000, you know, fill in the blanks because I would like to donate that. And I would be like,
that's just
this
unbelievable.
Is wild.
That's so cool.
And it was really cool. It was a cool feeling to feel completely aligned in what I was doing because the job I was doing at the time was not that. It was very much like, I'm doing this purely so I can feed my family, you know? And feeling how it feels to be aligned and like what I'm doing for work was an amazing, amazing experience. So
so cool.
I think that just goes to show you too, when you're doing something that the community really wants or is ready for, everything just kind of comes together. We had a similar experience with the march where we just had to say, let's do it. And then all these people just came out of the woodwork because it was like, now is the time for this to happen.
Absolutely.
So I definitely know. I mean, I've been being an organizer over the years. That's usually not, you know, oftentimes that's not what happens. You know, you have to, oftentimes I feel like you have to like, I don't know, like you have to try to sell the idea of Canyon County pride, right? But people are like, no, you don't have to sell anything. Like, duh, that's a no-brainer. What can I do? You know what I mean? So I think that's something that just really speaks to like the timing and everything. I think there's some things that are created that just like when it's time, it's time. And all you got to do is just kind of like show up for it. Not to say that it's not a lot of work or a lot of whatever, but it's kind of a cool feeling, especially when you have so many people coming at you on like a national level or with death threats or all these sorts of things that are like the extreme opposite too, right? Because you've never probably experienced that before that, you know what I mean? And so now you're like getting these both worlds where you have people that are just like, here you go. And you have other people who are like, I'm going to kill you.
Exactly.
It's definitely like dual, holding the duality of that is an interesting feeling for sure. To go on what you were saying about Canyon County, maybe I could share a little bit about my kid and just the pushback that I've had as a parent and that he's had existing as a trans and queer person throughout the years. We've had about 10 friends say that they're not being friends with him, you know, and this is, he's 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. We just had one recently that like he brought over his best friend from school because he just switched schools. And he brought her over. We had such a fun time. Like we were all sitting at the table, eating, chatting about fill in the blank and just laughing. And we heard like a bang on the door and we were like, oh, and my kid went and opened the door and the person was like, hey, I'm her parent. I need her to come with me. And I was like, oh, sorry, did we not communicate that she was here? Like, what's going on? Like, I can tell you're frustrated or whatever. And she's like, I just need her right now. And I was like, oh, we've loved having her. Thank you so much for letting her come over. Are you sure you don't want to sit down and eat with us? We're having a great time. She was like, no. I was like, okay, well, hopefully she can come over another time because we love to have her. She's honestly welcome anytime. And she was like, we'll see about that. Oh, and I closed the door and was like, we're never going to see this friend again.
Yeah.
You know, which is a really heavy feeling to have as an adult, like knowing that someone doesn't like you and doesn't want to be around you. But when it's your child that is, you know, trying their best to make friends and be authentic and cultivate community with people their age, and then this one person that they have a great relationship with, hang out at school all the time, want to be together, all of a sudden can't. And I did, like, I asked him the other day, I was like, so can she come over? Yeah. And he was like, no. Her mom doesn't want her to turn into a liberal. And it's hard because this person is queer. Her mom just doesn't know it. No. And so it's like a really frustrating situation. But sadly, this isn't the first. Like, we have kids get dropped off to play with my kids, and we just watch to see, like, when they pull up at our house, watch to see if they're even allowed to get out of the car. Because we have had someone pulled up and then leave because we have a pride flag.
Of course, yeah.
So, like, and I've asked my kids, like, I can take down the pride flag. I can lie for you. I can pretend to be straight for you. I will do all those things if it means, like, you being able to interact with your friend.
Right.
And, of course, my kids are like, you did that for long enough in your life, like being Mormon, we're done with that. Yeah. And we don't really want people in our lives that don't accept us. So it's fine. Yeah. They have a more mature outlook than me. I'm like, I will slash her tires and make her let her kid come to, you know, like that's the feeling that I have. But my kids are like, well, okay, she clearly doesn't respect me. So I don't want her mom coming over anyway, you know.